I was shocked. I couldn't breathe most of the video that we watched. I cried most of it.
Seeing it in such a compilation was really, really hard to conceive. Why would anybody have the will to do this to unarmed civilians?
My name is Fatima Al-Harbi. I'm from Bahrain.
My name is Rawan Osman. I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese.
I thought I saw enough on social media, the footage that's been all over social media about the 7th of October, but it wasn't enough. There were more horrific acts and barbaric acts towards civilians, people sleeping in their beds. We saw them wearing their pajamas. People were sleeping and they got killed just because they're Israelis.
So far, as a Syrian, I thought the worst I've seen in my life is what ISIS has done in Iraq and Syria. I have never imagined saying I've seen something worse. Hamas, they're both terrorist organizations, but the glee we've witnessed in the background, cheering the death, the torture, the rape.
They were so joyful and cheering over dead bodies, and they've been parading bodies without clothes. That's not the Islam that I knew my whole life. They've been using the God's name also while killing children, throwing grenades towards children and their families. That's really annoyed me and surprised me that people were happy doing it. I don't think that's the way that anyone should fight for a land or for anything. If you want to fight for something, especially being a Muslim, there is laws for wars that our Islam has put in. You can't harm civilians with no arms to defend themselves. You can't harm women and children. And we've seen all of this in the movie.
We've seen the people in Gaza cheering the death, chanting Allahu Akbar, celebrating what happened as if it's an achievement. I wonder what have they achieved after the attack on the 7th of October. It was their initial reaction, and it exposed the hatred they feel towards the Israelis. This is something that has to be addressed. I think of the Hamas politicians who wanted to make a distinction, saying that their militants had clear instructions not to harm any civilians, and that any attacks against children, women, and elderly were by those who followed the militants when they opened the fences. We've seen the video. I've seen it with my own eyes. I did not see any instructions to spare civilians or children or the elderly. Nobody was spared, not even the Muslims.
You can't use the name of God doing stuff like that. Our Islam is so beautiful and peaceful, and we have a lot of verses, sayings that one of them is, if you kill one human, is like killing mankind. So how can you kill this much of humans by using the name of God?
The hardest bit for me to watch was the boys with their father. I'm a mother, and I could relate to the fear, to the dread the father and the children were feeling, running for their life, not knowing what on earth is happening, the confusion. And the moment the boys realized that their father has been killed, and the way the terrorists react to that, they're just pushing them around, like move on, move on. Watching the two boys, the brother not knowing that his brother cannot see, and them processing what happened, like this is real, it's not a dream, it's not a nightmare. Like dad died. And watching a small boy wishing he'd died, I think his childhood ended that moment.
Seeing the bodies without their heads, and seeing children crying over their family bodies, with blood over their bodies, over their pajamas. Kids just 10, 12, 13 years old. I think those scenes will always stick in my mind, and I think that will help me always, that to advocate for peace, that no children, no woman, no father deserve to see such scenes, no matter what their religion or nationality.
I wish it wasn't impossible to play on regular media in the Arab world. Hamas terrorists denied it happened, and they always say, show us proof. Well, I have seen it. They've even used a garden hose to decapitate what to me seemed as a Thai national from his facial features. An Israeli was decapitated with a small knife, and then his head was taken away. I think that's enough proof.
I think some people don't want to accept the reality and don't want to give credit of what actually happened that day. Even if we show them the stuff that it's not shown for the public, they won't believe it also. It's a different kind of war happening also.
I have seen the horrific scenes coming out of Gaza, but I also do not allow them to confuse me. I do remember what happened on the 7th of October, who instigated this war. And as a mother, as someone who grew up in the Middle East, as someone who has family across the Middle East and many friends in Israel, I cannot carry on living as if something hasn't happened.